All right, hey VC, I'm Jamie. Welcome back. We are back with another video and vinyl this time. These are some recent vinyl finds, a few that were left over from Record Store Day Drop, and others that were found at local record stores, vendors, and a few from thrift stores as well. So I thought, yeah, with my recent unboxings that have been predominantly CD, it'd be nice to get some vinyl on here. So let's get right to it. So happy this arrived. This was a late arrival. Wasn't sure if I was going to be able to pick up a copy, but the Yardbirds, Roger the Engineer. Of course, this album was initially released in North America as Over, Under, Sideways, Down. So this is a two-album set for Record Store Day. Roger the Engineer 2 LP expanded edition with, of course, the original album plus singles and rare studio recordings. There's a few mono versions or mono singles on here. Also includes a booklet with liner notes by the band members. And so happy that this arrived. And there you have the listings available there, the tracks. And this is a double album, as I mentioned, but it is not gatefold. So take a look inside. And this is also pressed on 180-gram heavyweight white vinyl. So just a nice little insert for this, and then we have the two albums like this, and we'll take a look at each. We got the first one, so yeah, nice stuff on the nice liner notes continuing on the sleeves as well. Very nice, and just beautiful, and sounds great. Plays well and sounds really good. Very pleased. And track listings. We have both Jimmy Page and Jeff Beck. And there we have it. So Yardbirds and Roger the Engineer. And this was also a late arrival from a Record Store Day Drop. So Rory Gallagher's and Cleveland Calling. So this, as you can see, is an acoustic setting for Rory Gallagher. This was from a radio station, from a broadcast. Now, there's also the interviews on here as well. And some don't really care for that. They want just the music. I don't really have an issue with the interview as well as the music. And this is really just an 8-song set. But I think some of the interview stuff is quite interesting, especially there's one part where Rory talks about his approach to harmonica or playing blues harp, which I think is fascinating. So I don't really have a problem including the interview. So this released on Chess as part of the ongoing Rory Gallagher reissues or issues. Yeah, and really beautifully recorded. And this is wonderful, sort of early morning music. Put this on and just enjoy. Now, it's interesting for Record Store Day Drop. There's no specific hype sticker or anything like that saying that it was for Record Store Day. And we'll take a look inside. And, of course, the sleeve shows you everything that you can pick up these days with all the Rory Gallagher reissues. And yeah, so it was for radio station WNCR-FM, and the interviewer was Carolyn Thomas. And, inside, very nice custom label. And very enjoyable, Rory Gallagher. And this was not a Record Store Day drop, but this came out. This is the reissue of David Bowie's The Man Who Sold the World. Of course, you'll remember the UK cover with David Bowie on the dress when it was released in the United States. They used this cover. Now, for this reissue, it's still the same songs, but they've chosen this title, which is either pronounced Metrobolist or Metrobolist, which I don't believe is even a real word, and I'm probably not pronouncing it properly at all. Metrobolist or Metrobolist. Apparently that was one of the possible titles for this album. It was on one of the reel-to-reel tapes that subsequently got, in terms of the title, got discarded. But so for this reissue, they decided to go with that. Again, this is the US version, but boy, this sounds great. So this is a newer mix by producer Tony Visconti, and sounds great. I think it's really nice. And the issue, this is a gatefold, of course, with the outtakes of the classic UK cover. And I did keep the hype sticker here. This is 50th anniversary mix by Tony Visconti, which is quite cool, quite cool. And interesting sleeve here, that's sort of the cut sleeve. And nice customized label here. Okay, very nice. Okay, here's some previously enjoyed albums, shall we say. Picked up the Young Rascals and Groovin'. What a great band. A band that doesn't deserve the credit they get for the Blue-Eyed Soul. And this one's got some great songs on it. A Girl Like You, which was a big hit. Of course, the classic track Groovin'. They also do Stevie Wonder's A Place in the Sun. Great, great band. Groovin'. And this is on the Atlantic label. Now, a stereo version. This does not include the original sleeve. This is actually an MGM record sleeve, but it kind of fits the whole feel of this album. But it is nice to get a blue-green Atlantic label. I don't have very many of these, and you don't see them too often, so that's great. Okay, Canadian Blues, the band Downchild, or best known as Downchild Blues Band. This is their album Blood Run Hot with Spencer Davis, who passed away recently, of course, of Spencer Davis Group. This is one of the great lineups with the Downchild Blues Band, and this is a terrific album. Well worth checking out on Attic Records. And this came out in 1981. Yeah, really good. And of course on the lovely Attic Records label. Okay, Justin Hayward, songwriter. Of course, Justin Hayward of Moody Blues fame. And this is a promotional copy on London Records. In terms of some of the solo stuff of the Moody Blues, I'm always kind of discovering something that's available that I didn't know was previously available. Of course, such a fan of the Moody Blues, but just starting to kind of discover some of the solo works from the band. Now, this has got a nice little cut on the corner here, but another lovely album, and I do love this London Records group sleeve. I think that's terrific. And on the great Durham label. Okay, so there you have that. Justin Hayward. I just love his vocals. He's such a great singer. Okay, how about Ian Thomas? And this is quite simply the best of Ian Thomas. Canadian singer-songwriter, has had a ton of hits, and there's international groups that have covered his songs or songs that he's written for bands like Santana, Chicago, also Manfred Mann. And this one is all his stuff. Painted Ladies was a massive Canadian hit. Right Before Your Eyes, America did that track. Long, Long Way. Goodnight, Mrs. Calabash. And yeah, I mean, great Canadian pop. And a very entertaining guy, too. And on Anthem. Okay. I was happy to finally pick this up. I had on this way back when, but then, of course, unloading a lot of my vinyl collection way back when for the advent of CDs. It was nice to pick up a really nice copy of Kiss Rock and Roll Over. This is a great album. I still really enjoy this album. What a great follow-up. When you have an album as big as Destroyer, this was a solid follow-up with Eddie Kramer, again producing, of course, Jimi Hendrix producer. I still really enjoy this album, and it's rocking from start to finish. And with all the Destroyer, with all the sort of Bob Ezrin production, this was kind of a nice pullback. This kind of brings you back more to the Dress to Kill sound for Kiss. So again, Hard Luck Woman, sort of a country leanings for a Peter Criss track. Mr. Speed, Paul Stanley song, still great. Calling Dr. Love, I mean, how many times have you heard that? But also Love 'Em and Leave 'Em, like Gene Simmons. But no, still a great album, and this is at least an original press, so it's not a reissue. So yeah, pretty happy to pick this up. Okay. Rare Earth, man, how many Rare Earth albums are there? I always seem to be coming across another one, and this one is simply called Rare Earth, and this is on the label Prodigal, which is through Motown. Not a lot of big hits off this, because now we're starting to get into 1977 Their main hits were like the early 70s, but still a great, great funky sound. Really enjoy this band. If you see some Rare Earth albums, usually you can pick them up pretty cheaply. Pick them up. You will definitely enjoy. And I do like the Prodigal label on this. Very cool. Okay, how about the Hollies and Another Night? Always enjoyed the Hollies. This is post Graham Nash years. But there is a track on here that I've recently discovered called I'm Down. Not to be confused with the Beatles track I'm Down, but this is just a beautiful ballad with amazing harmonies. And I think this is when Alan Clark came back with the band. He was off for like an album or two, or away for an album or two. This is still, Graham Nash is doing his thing. But overall, it looks kind of like it's going to be maybe like really disco-y, but it's not. It's a really solid Hollies album. As I say, the track I'm Down is absolutely beautiful. And there's, again, still, classic Hollies harmonies throughout this. No major hits from this one. But, yeah, if you get a chance to check out I'm Down. Beautiful song. And this simply on the Epic label. And this is from 1975. Okay, here is a Canadian prog band that you likely haven't heard of, but they are called Symphonic Slam. So when you're looking at this, maybe you're not quite sure, is it going to be prog or whatever, or psych. It is definitely more proggy than anything, but this is really worth checking out. Apparently this band opened up for Rush, as far as I understand. One of the members, I believe, Timo Lane, was originally from Finland. And came to Canada and hooked up with a couple of Canadians to produce this. I don't think there are too many Symphonic Slam albums. This may be one of the few albums that they released on A&M. And I think A&M wanted, as I recall reading about this, they wanted a little bit more. So when did this come out? This would be like sort of the disco time. And I think they were hoping for something a little bit more disco friendly, but they were totally prog. And so I think that kind of soured relations with the record company. So yeah, 1976. But man, is this ever enjoyable. Symphonic Slam. So some kind of forgotten Canadian prog. Chad and Jeremy. How great were they? Like Yesterday's Gone. This is just wonderful British invasion with very sort of folky side leanings, but Yesterday's Gone, and Willow Weep for Me, just their beautiful harmony, summer song. So happy to pick this up. Beautiful album. And this on the World Artists label. So yeah, softer sounds with Chad and Jeremy, but really enjoyable. Yeah, and in terms of this copy, I'm not sure exactly this is put on there, but it looks like it's supposed to be stereo, but I'm not exactly sure what that's all about, or if that's something about the previous owner. I'm not entirely sure. Okay, I picked this up. I didn't know anything about this. I was able to get this just for a couple of bucks. Attila Zoller and Junction. Just straightforward jazz guitar. In fact, that's it. There are 4 tracks, and it's just this individual jazz guitar. It is very, atmospheric, nice early morning, late evening kind of music. Don't know a lot about this artist, but really did enjoy this album. It's just like a lot of times for some of these jazz artists, you can always take a chance because there's always going to be something interesting going on. And this on Inner City label. And this came out in 1981. I think it was recorded earlier than that. I think this was recorded in the mid-70s, but didn't come out till 81. Here's an album I'm going to have to listen to a couple more times. Very familiar with Matthew Southern Comfort. They had one of the radio hits, Woodstock. They did a rendition of that song. Of course, also that's Joni Mitchell's song, and Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, known for that song. This is their second album, simply called Second Spring. Interesting variety of music. It's kind of folky rock, but it's really kind of, I don't want to say all over the place, but there's quite a variety of interesting tracks on here, shall we say. You probably won't be able to see that too well. I picked this up for just $2, but the cover is quite water damaged. And this on the Decca label. You know, nice harmonies, a nice sound to the band overall. But I will have to give that a couple more spins to maybe just kind of get into it. New band that I've discovered, well, not new for many. This is the David Bromberg Band. This was a blind buy, but I got this for just a couple of bucks, and this is a double album. This is called How Late'll You Play Till. I do love this cover with a big frothy jug of beers and popcorn kernels. And we got you know, the drinks and the ashtray there. And this is kind of bluegrass, but it's really playful, fun kind of bluegrass. Bluegrass, definitely sort of country rock, that sort of thing. Not totally familiar with the band, but they've released a number of albums over the years. I believe David Bromberg has been a musician, a musical guest on a number of albums, but this including the original sleeve with the lyrics and on Fantasy Records. And so the one album is a studio album, and then the other album is a live album. But really enjoyable. And this came out in 1976 on Fantasy. Okay, so there you have that. Fairly obscure Canadian band called Rare Earth. I remember seeing this band back, I believe it was in the early 80s in Waterloo at a place called the Princess Cinema that would occasionally, and I think for the most part still to this day, occasionally get kind of folk artists in. It's movie cinema, so they don't have a very large stage, but occasionally they could get like a folk artist in or a very small band in that sort of setting. And one of the bands was a band called Rare Air, and this is their album Hard to Beat. And this is sort of Celtic fusion, and this is all instrumental. And I remember seeing this band perform. It was kind of one of those, didn't know much about the band at the time, just going to see them, and just the audience got so into it. And it was one of the early concerts in terms of, you know, it's movie theater seating, so everybody's sitting. And then all of a sudden, just people are dancing and just dancing in the aisles. And I thought, I couldn't believe what was happening. So yeah, the band is called Rare Air. And yeah, it's all instrumental. And one of the sort of, shall we say, more obscure Canadian bands. And sadly, this album, the vinyl's got a slight blemish on the one side. I don't know if I'll be able to find it. It still plays generally okay, but yeah, there's just a slight, you probably won't be able to see it. It's just a slight blemish there, so you can hear it when you're playing it, but it still plays through. But this is on the Green Limit label through WIA, though. Okay, and this, as I say, I saw them, I think, gosh, it must have been like the early 80s. And I'm not sure when this album came out. I'm pretty sure this came out in the 80s too. And again, it doesn't have the 80s recording trapping. So this came out, this one was from 1980, as late as 1987. Okay, and again, with bands like this, with Spirit of the West, even Great Big Sea, starting to happen too. So it was just interesting, that sort of sound that was happening. Okay, Manfred Mann's Earth Band. You know, when I talk about Ian Thomas, you've got this great album, pretty solid album from Manfred Mann's Earth Band that kicks off with the track Demolition Man, which is a Sting song. But then the second track is Runner, which was written by Ian Thomas. And, you know, it's pretty solid album. And I really do like the vocalist that they had at this time. What was his name? Is it Chris Thompson? He's a pretty solid vocalist. Also Steve Waller's on here as well. And yeah, Somewhere in Africa. So on the side two, kind of an odd cover, very kind of 80s, but it's not too 80s. And then on the second side, that's where they get kind of more into the African suite, or sort of the African theme. And this is the North American version. I believe the UK version doesn't have the song Runner on it, that was added for the North American release, but on Arista. But worth checking out for sure. Okay, and picked up Firefall. Nice band. That's sort of, you could almost say yacht rock, if you will. You know, and they're a nice band. It's hard to get super excited about a band like Firefall. Bit of ringwear there, but you know, when you're looking for something kind of nice and easy, worth checking out. And this is again, I picked this album up for like $2. So yeah, "You Are the Woman" was the hit from this one, and this on Yellow Atlantic label, which you don't often see. Okay, how about some Barry White, the man? Love Barry White. This one is really starting to get into the disco sounds. This is 1978 on the 20th Century Fox. Still really enjoyable, but this is really starting to kind of get into the disco sounds, but still very, very enjoyable. And interesting, on here, he does a cover of "Just the Way You Are" by Billy Joel, which I didn't know that Barry White covered. So this one's still with the original sleeve. And on 20th Century Fox Records. There you go. Okay, another artist I didn't really know about is Ruby Starr. How's this for a cover? Ruby Starr, and the album is called "Scene Stealer." And Ruby Starr was a vocalist with Black Oak, Arkansas. This is a great album. She's a terrific vocalist. A lot of covers on here, like "Maybe I'm Amazed" and "Be My Baby," "Drift Away," but really an enjoyable album. And this with the original sleeve, where you have all this information on the one side and then absolutely nothing on the other side. I'm not quite sure why, but on Capitol. And I haven't seen this Capitol label for quite some time, but classic 70s North American Capitol label. Okay, other stuff we got here. How about some Lonnie Mac? Blues guitarist, strike like lightning. Lonnie Mac also played with the Doors, and on this one, Stevie Ray Vaughan is featured. So what a terrific album. Stevie Ray is on a number of tracks here with Lonnie Mac. Absolutely terrific. So this came out in 1985 on Alligator. So I was really happy to pick this one up. Solid rock and blues from start to finish. And on the great Alligator label. Okay. How about a little bit more Canadian prog? Mahogany Rush, number 4. Of course, Frank Marino, Mahogany Rush. This is one of the great early Frank Marino albums from 1976 yet on CBS. And again, it's funny with Frank Marino and Mahogany Rush that it's another kind of Canadian prog outfit that really kind of gets forgotten about. And yeah, I don't know if this was missing the original sleeve or not, but there we go. Mahogany Rush 4 from 1976. Okay, we'll switch gears. How about the Eurythmics and "Sweet Dreams Are Made of This"? Love Annie Lennox. I think she's absolutely terrific. I mean, it really does have that 80s sound. "Love Is a Stranger." So many big hits off this one. But this one features the original sleeve. "Love Is a Stranger," "Sweet Dreams," and on RCA. But what a sound this band ushered in, with Dave Stewart and Annie Lennox. Okay, and maybe we'll squeeze in one more. How about another Canadian band? This is Alta Moda featuring Molly Johnson. Molly Johnson now since has gone much more as a blues jazz, particularly jazz artist, but this was her one of her bands from the 80s, from 1987. Enjoyable. It has that real sort of 80s feel to it, but I was able to pick this up pretty inexpensively, and this was on Epic Records from 1987. They had a few radio hits, but as I say, a real sort of 80s sound. Alta Moda. Okay, well, that's going to wrap it up for this one. We'll chat again soon. Do take care. Bye-bye.